Thank you for joining us this morning and welcome to Caltech. Michael Alvarez, one of the conference organizers and the founding co-director of Caltech's new Lind Center for Science, Society, and Policy. First off, I wanted to thank everyone for their support. This has obviously been a difficult week for us, or 10 days for us, or 9 days for us here in Southern California. And we've been successful, I think, so far in transitioning this conference to this online and virtual format. We appreciate your help and your support and patience today. As most of these online conferences go, we'll probably hit a glitch or two. So if that happens, please be patient. We, as conference organizers, Betsy, Sinclair, and I felt that it was important to keep the momentum going. There's a lot of amazing work that's been done in this area of information and misinformation in 2024 by our colleagues in election administration, by our colleagues who are election practitioners, and of course by the academic community. And we really wanted to highlight that work at this point in time when we again thought that there was so much momentum and effort going into this conference that it was important for us to continue. I really wanted to thank, before we start, Sabrina Haymeister, Michelle Schaefer, and Leslie Maxfield, who have all really stepped up in a difficult time for us and for them in different ways to make this transition as seamless as possible. And again, thank you, all you participants, for all that you've done to make this work for us today. I just wanted to briefly say, obviously, we've been going through a difficult period. There's a lot of ways you can help. If there's anything that you want to do to try to help, please support the American Red Cross at this point. The LA Regional Food Bank is doing a lot to help feed the folks who are displaced in the community. The Pasadena Humane Society has been doing some heroic things to help all of the displaced folks and of course, all of the animals that have been affected by these horrific wildfires, in particular in the Altadena, Pasadena area. Caltech and JPL have been hit very hard by this, and Caltech and JPL have set up a disaster relief fund. If you're interested in any of these, or if there's any other thing that you'd like to do to help, just please reach out directly to me. So turning to the conference, so Betsy and I have been organizing this conference on information and misinformation elections, and welcome. We've got a full packed agenda for the next 2 days, and we're very excited to get started. Just some simple logistics. During the next 2 days, if there's anything that comes up that you need help with, in particular with logistics about the online format, you're having trouble or you need anything on that front, please reach out directly to me, Betsy, Sabrina, or Michelle. I'll just pause here quickly. You can keep track of those email addresses. I think most of you know our coordinates at this point. You can also, if you're a participant, you can also reach us through the chat if there's anything that comes up. And for those who are non-participants who are in our audience, you can use the Q&A to reach us as well. There is some chance that we might lose the Zoom link. So if we lose the Zoom conference, like for example, the power were to go to Caltech, just please use the same link that you were given to reconnect. And the link that you are using to access the conference today will be the same link that you'll be able to use tomorrow. Just as a reminder, we are recording this event. And after this conference, we plan to post the presentations online. We're also planning on posting any materials that presenters send us. So if you have slides you're showing today or tomorrow, you have a paper, you've got some other materials that you would like to link off the conference website, we do plan to archive all that. That's one of the policies of our center, that when we do these events, we record them, we put the recordings online, and we try to archive and disseminate all of these events. I'd like to also remind everyone that Caltech has a code of conduct for ethical conduct that applies to an event like this. It's 11 points. I'm not going to go through them in great detail, but I think today the goal here is to have a really good conversation. We want, we're going to talk about some issues that, were difficult for many of us in the 2024 election. Issues about how we responded to election misinformation, to election threats. So some of these issues might be difficult to discuss, but we do want to have a civil and productive conversation. And we do hope that everyone lives up to our code of conduct. With that, I'm going to turn the microphone here over to my fellow co-director, Frederick Eberhardt. He's a professor of philosophy here at Caltech. And along with me is one of the founding co-directors of Caltech's Lynn Center for Science, Society, and Policy.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our conference on information and misinformation in the elections. I'm Frederick Eberhardt. As Mike said, I'm one of the co-directors of the Lynn Center for Science, Society, and Policy. Welcome also to Caltech, though, as Mike said, unfortunately, only virtually today. We were very much looking forward to getting together in person to start the year. But while the campus thankfully has remained unaffected directly by the fires, our community here has really had to deal with major loss. And so we've been reeling quite a bit. But I'm, as a result, enormously grateful that we could switch over to the online format, and really, really heartened that you have still all come to join us here online. And given the exciting program, I'm really confident that we can still make this a really big success. So thank you all for joining. We all really, really appreciate that you did so. I also want to promise that once we have sorted ourselves out here and once we've rebuilt our community again, that we do want to make sure to all actually welcome you on campus in person sometime in the future. So I hope I will be able to do exactly this sort of introduction in the way in person with you there sometime soon. I would just like to take a minute, if that's okay with you, to say a little bit about our center, to give you a little bit of context of where this is all coming from. The Lynn Center for Science, Society, and Policy is still a very new initiative on the Caltech campus that was initiated originally by Caltech's president, Thomas Rosenbaum. We have just passed the 2-year mark and are delighted that thanks to a really generous endowment gift from Ron and Maxine Lind, we've been able to really rapidly expand our activities. We are housed within the Division of Humanities and Social Sciences at Caltech, but really our goal is to serve the entire campus. Given Caltech's size, unlike many other larger universities, I think this is actually quite feasible, and we have lots of connections to just about every division on campus and are working with them. Our goal is to connect the sort of extraordinary expertise that we have here on campus in the natural and social sciences to policy development. And the idea there really is to think about policy concerns as an integral part of the research questions that are studied here, to somehow make the policy issue a question that we start off with in thinking about our research, and not merely an addendum that we tack on to the scientific publication at the end, or where we then, once the science is done, think about like, okay, what's the policy implication? It should be really an integral part. So similarly, then in the reverse direction, we want to learn from policymakers what questions need to be addressed, and then how researchers like the people that we have here on campus can and should engage with policy making. So it's really a two-way road that we hope to open up here on campus in a much more substantial way. We want to enable this dialogue with policymakers in residence, bringing people to campus, and to have incubators that function as small policy research retreats that we can host here on campus. If this is something that any of you would be interested in doing on a policy topic, please reach out to either me or Mike Alvarez, my co-director. Of course, as I'm sure you all know very well, connecting academic research to policy making is a matter of each side learning the language of the other. And so we aim to provide a sort of forum for these discussions, and we incentivize and support initiatives that aim to build these sorts of bridges. We have engaged in several programs already. We had a conference on water management in California last year. We had a conference on the regulation of the release of engineered microbes also last year. and a conference on understanding the development and the sort of spread of conspiracy theories. So this is the sort of thing we want to do on many different topics that relate science to policy. Our conference today, I think, exemplifies exactly what we hope to achieve in this sort of space. So bringing together experts who manage the actual election process with researchers who study that process, who study elections. I very much hope that we will be able to have a sort of detailed discussion of the data, but that we can also think about sort of concrete and actionable policy recommendations to improve and secure the election process. I'm really delighted to have you all here. I look forward to all of your talks, but perhaps even more, I'm looking forward to the questions and discussions. I think that's where the real action happens. And once again, a huge thank you that you switched with us to the online format, given our local circumstances. So with that, I would like to hand over to the conference co-organizer, Betsy Sinclair. She's the Thomas F. Eagleton University Professor of Public Affairs and Political Science and Chair of the Political Science Department at Washington University in St. Louis. Betsy, will you take it from here?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Frederick. All right, you all, I give you the 2-minute overview of why we're having this meeting, and then I give you the charge for today, and then I get to introduce my friend Lynn Bavrick. So to calibrate where we sit in our time and in our space as a country, I think we're at this moment where fiction is cheap and ubiquitous. And we see both foreign governments, but also trolls, consistently engaging in a kind of A/B testing to see which fiction will travel the fastest. But truth is really expensive, and truth is hard to produce. It's laborious. In an academia, truth requires peer review, and it requires careful study, so truth is slow. What this means is that fiction sometimes gets out ahead of us, and we are increasingly engaged in this informational war where we're fighting fiction and trying to find truth. I think in the space of elections, this has never before been more apparent, with the consistent claims about fictions that, are messages and test. And we see both policymakers, as well as election officials, as well as those of us who study elections, really fighting and fighting to try to elevate and make truth a little bit louder. This has enabled this crisis of trust, where we're increasingly seeing voters really not confident that their ballot was counted as they intended. And we're also increasingly seeing a crisis of trust among citizens regarding what universities do and what they're supposed to do. And it's why I think conferences like this matter so terribly much, because a conference like this actually demonstrates to citizens everywhere that we're working on the problems of our age. We're working on some of the most pressing problems that we have, and that we're listening. So we're listening to public officials who tell us, these are the problems that are critical. Here is where we are stuck. And we're listening to a community of academics that say, all right, here are the evidence-based strategies that could restore citizen trust, that could work on these problems. This is the best work we can. And I think it's communities like this that let us fight against this incredible wave of fiction that we face. So I hope today what we see is emerging 3 different kinds of criteria, that we learn what the problems are, that we're listening pretty hard to say, all right, here is where we could restore citizen trust by working on these problems that are shared across communities around our country right now. That we could also listen very carefully to hear, where is there evidence-based strategy that we can enable, that we can work on for our county election officials. And then arguably, perhaps most importantly, we can hear where there's work to be done. So where are we going to go as an intellectual community? Some of that may simply be in terms of communication. And I think it's a pretty exciting way to think about. It's communities like this that can both restore trust and enable this kind of democratic voice, but it can also enable people everywhere to have more trust in what universities are actually doing. I was really disappointed not to be able to meet you all in person, but one of the silver linings of this meeting is we have 100 people here today, and we couldn't have done that before. So I think we should really take the opportunity to celebrate that we're a much bigger community today, and we can actually arguably build up a body of knowledge from today's community to try to think about, like, where can we go forwards. I'm hoping our next meeting will convene again in a year, and we'll come to WashU. So I'll welcome you all to St. Louis, and we'll do this again. In the meantime, I want to charge you again to look for three things: to listen to the problems, to listen for evidence-based strategies, and really to look for opportunities for work to be done. And I think, engaging in the chat, engaging in the Q&A, that helps us work out where we can actually make progress. So even though you're online, please be loud, please be noisy, please be chatty. My favorite thing about having a Zoom meeting is you can both listen to the presenter and ask a question at the same time, which in real life you cannot do. You have to wait to ask your question. But virtually, you can actually speak and listen at the same time, which is fun. So take advantage of that opportunity. And with no further ado, I want to introduce Lynn Vavreck. So Lynn Vavreck is the Marvin Hoffenberg Professor of American Politics and Public Policy at UCLA. She's famous. She is a remarkable human being. So she is an expert equestrian. She is an expert in polling and elections. But I think she's actually a perfect lead for today because she's great in crisis. So Lynn has been one of my mentors my entire career, and I will tell you a story about Lynn Vavreck, which is once I was at a conference where I caught the flu. I got profoundly dehydrated, and I had to go to the emergency room. Lynn Vavreck heard that I had been rushed to the emergency room, and she showed up. And I didn't even know her very well. I had met her for maybe, 6 hours beforehand. And she held my ponytail while I threw up. And she called my husband to make sure he was on his way. And I thought, if ever you are in a crisis, you want Lynn Vavreck with you. Well, I think this is the perfect woman to lead into today's meeting because I think elections are in a crisis. And so I think setting the stage here for how it is that we can work and make progress